If you were hoping to catch a glimpse of some elite NBA prospects in this year's Final Four, you're out of luck. But that's not only because of how crazy and upset-heavy this year's tournament has been. Rather, the dearth of blue-chip prospects in this year's Final Four is also indicative of a broader trend across the basketball landscape. Increasingly, top NBA prospects are forgoing the NCAA altogether and choosing other arenas in which to develop their skills in that mandatory gap year between finishing high school and NBA eligibility. Why are the NBA's future stars increasingly inclined to pass on the NCAA? And where are they going instead? Let's take a look. Sit back, relax, and take this in. With the exception of a few superstar talents who came around during the brief prep-to-pro era, like Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, the traditional career path for elite basketball players has gone as follows for decades. Shine in high school, continue developing and showcasing those skills for a highly touted NCAA program, then declare for the NBA draft. The overwhelming majority of NBA stars, from MJ to Joel Embiid, have followed that trajectory. A trajectory dictated, of course, by eligibility rules that benefited the NBA and the NCAA at the expense of the players. But trailblazing players have tried for years to circumvent that system. Like, for instance, former 9-year NBA veteran Brandon Jennings, who opted to play professionally in Europe for a year after high school rather than play in the NCAA. Jennings, it should be noted, made $1.2 million playing in Europe, which is exactly $1.2 million more than he would have made in the NCAA, which doesn't pay its players. And now, roughly a decade and a half since the NBA implemented its one-and-done rule and revoked players' short-lived freedom to enter the association straight out of high school, it's safe to say that the model has been totally disrupted. The NCAA is no longer an obligatory stop-off for future NBA stars, many of whom would understandably prefer to get paid for their basketball excellence instead of risking a potentially career-altering injury for no salary with an NCAA program. Ultimately, there may be more cachet to playing in the NCAA, but there's more cash elsewhere, and not just in Europe anymore. Over the past few years, professional development leagues have sprouted up in the US, giving elite prospects an opportunity to continue working on their game at a high level while earning a salary and without having to move to Italy. And in a very short amount of time, these leagues have established themselves as viable, attractive alternatives to playing in the NCAA or heading overseas. The G League Ignite, for instance, managed to convince 5-star recruit Scoot Henderson to forgo college basketball. Instead, Henderson reportedly received a $1 million deal, and now, having excelled against professional caliber competition as a teenager, he's projected to go second overall in the 2023 NBA draft. Meanwhile, Overtime Elite, another upstart professional development league that pays a minimum salary of $100,000, managed to convince the highly touted Thompson twins to pass on the NCAA. And after 2 seasons with Overtime Elite, both a men and a sir are projected to go in the first 5 picks of the upcoming NBA draft. And since we all know that French phenom Victor Wembanyama is going first overall, it's conceivable that none of the top 4 picks in the 2023 NBA draft will have played NCAA basketball. That hasn't happened since the prep-to-pro era. Yes, sir, the times they are a-changin'. And it feels like it's only a matter of time before the NCAA is largely, if not entirely, devoid of superstars. After all, forgetting the financial part of the equation, it's clear that playing in the NCAA isn't an essential part of the development process. Look at the best players in the NBA today. Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Giannis. None of those guys spent a year at Duke or Kentucky or UCLA, and they seem to be doing just fine. Clearly, other developmental leagues, both international and domestic, have closed the gap, and they're offering salaries. Even with NIL deals now on the table, the NCAA won't be able to attract top talent as automatically as it once did. And then, of course, there's the possibility the NBA kills its one-and-done rule in its next collective bargaining agreement, paving the way for players to once again go pro straight out of high school. That would obviously be a blow of untold proportions for the NCAA, which would immediately lose one of its key draws and marketing tools, soon to be NBA stars. But whether that rule change comes to pass or not, it's clear that the NCAA's long-standing monopoly over future NBAers is already over, and it won't be long before the NBA is filled with players who felt empowered to shape their careers from day one.